question. Have any of you guys ever heard this? It's a saying. I don't know if it's an actual saying. It's been said a lot to me in my life. But have you guys ever heard this or been told this before? If you have a question, you should ask it, because most likely someone else in the room has the same question. You guys ever heard that? I try and tell the youth this all the time because, they're youth and they like to think that they're the only people that think sometimes. So I try to remind them that if they have a question, it's because other people probably have the same question. It fosters conversation and growth in learning together. In college, I heard it all the time. Every teacher that I ever had in college started class by telling me that. It never helped. I never asked any questions because I was stubborn. But it really pretty much reigns true, though. From all of my experience, it's a pretty true statement. Right? If anytime I had a question, I didn't ask it, but I had it, and somebody else would ask that question and be like, "Oh man, I had that same question. Thanks for asking." It just always seemed to work out that way. That if I had a question, someone else is probably having a similar question or the same question. And now, older in life, reflecting back on that, it's interesting to me to think how similarly a group of people think when put in the same situation. When put in that situation, in one group situation, how similarly a lot of people think. You ever thought about that? Like, you're in class, and you're all learning the same stuff at the same pace for the first time. And it makes sense that you all have the same question, because nobody actually knows this stuff unless they've read ahead in books, which I never did, because we'll get to it later. I don't like reading a whole lot, but it's one of those things that it just struck me as very interesting. You put a group of people in the same situation, and we all think pretty similarly. It's just an interesting thought. I have a question. Ready? I know that we all think very similarly in this question, and I'm going to be honest. I wrote it down, and it says, "I guarantee that we all stink." And I don't think you guys stink. I don't actually know what you smell like, but that's just how it typed out in my head. And I guarantee that we all think pretty similarly to this question. You ready? Does anybody in this room absolutely 100% love to run? That's right. You see how nobody's hand shot up? This message gets much harder with Matt and Rebecca are here, okay? Much harder, because they love to run. No, Matt does. I don't know if Rebecca loves it as much, but she does it. No, but none of us, I can pretty safely think that nobody in this room was going to be like, "Yes, running is my favorite thing that we've ever done. I'm going to do it today. It's going to be the best." No, that's just not typically, I didn't think that was going to be the answer here. Some of you may know this about me. Some of you may not, and if you don't, here you go. I'm training for a marathon, and let me rephrase that. I am failing at training for a marathon, okay? I'm trying, and I hate running, so it's hard. I agreed to the marathon, though. I paid the $700, and so I'm going, right? It's a Disney marathon. I'm going to Disney, and I'm going to run the marathon, whether I make it or not. But I don't enjoy it. It's not something that I wake up in the morning and I think, yes, running today, this is going to be the best part of my day. It's just not how it is. So I'm with you on that. I also don't love to run. But I realized pretty early in my running experience that if I was going to ever run anything more than a mile, music was not my avenue. You guys ever run and listen to music, or you see people running and you're like, "Oh, they're listening to music." Some people can do it. I can't. Music is tough. Music, every time the song changes, the tempo changes. And then the pace changes and my breathing changes, and I just can't get anything to work, okay? I speed up and then I slow down, and then I breathe real hard, and then I start singing because I can't help it, and it just throws everything off. And so running is just not a good thing for me to listen to. Music is not a good thing while I'm running. It just doesn't work. I learned, however, that books are the way to go, right? I started listening to books while I was running this time for this marathon. I've been training and failing at it, but still doing it, and I listened to books. I've been listening to the Harry Potter books. How many of you guys have read the Harry Potter books? Good number, maybe 2 people? Sweet. That'll help later, okay? I'll explain it, don't worry. But I've been listening to the Harry Potter books, and I watched all the movies a lot of times because that was, like I said before, I'm just not a big reader. It's just not how it works. But my brother always said, "You should read the books." And I was like, you know what? I'll do it. And then I listened to him instead because, again, I don't like to read. So, why would I read? I can listen. And so it made it easier though, right? The reader reads at a certain tempo, and I can keep pace, and it lets me distracts me from the thing that I'm not enjoying doing at the moment, which is running, and it lets me run at that pace. And so I've enjoyed listening to the Harry Potter books. And at this point, you guys are probably all thinking, what is happening? Jeremy, there's a point to this, I'm sure, but let's get to it because I don't understand what's happening. And I promise that I'll get to my point eventually. Well, Jeremy will tell you it's a pointless message. I don't have a point for the screen, okay? That means there's no point to be had other than the points I'm going to make in verbal. So I will get there, though, okay? And we're going to start getting there by reading a verse. And it's a very short verse. It's just a little verse. But I think it's a verse that really expresses who we are as people. And I think it really sheds light on what we were created for, what we were designed for, how God made us, okay? And it's a verse in Genesis, so I know it's Old Testament and it's before Jesus, but it's creation, okay? It's a creation verse, and this really does to me shed light on how God designed us. Ready? It's Genesis 2:18. We've talked about it before. Here it is. Then the Lord said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him." And there you go. That's the verse. Right? It's a very short verse, very brief verse. But to me, this verse says a lot. It is not good for the man to be alone. We were designed for relationship. We've talked about this before. We've talked about this we were designed to have a relationship with God. That is what he made us for, to have relationship with him. We've talked about that. I think we all agree on that. But I also think that this tells me that we were designed to live this life in relationship with each other. We were built to live together, to be in relationship with one another in a group setting. We're not made to live by ourselves. And I think it's really interesting, that saying that I brought up at the beginning of this, that if you have a question, someone else probably has a question. Because we weren't designed to live alone. We were designed to have thoughts together, to have feelings together, to wonder things together, to worry together, to do life together. We were designed to be in relationship with each other. We were designed to live in relationship. So this morning, I want to talk about something that we've talked about. Doug's prayer was actually really spot on this morning. I don't know if Doug reads my messages. I doubt it, but they're there. And I don't know if he reads them or not, but this morning, I do want to talk a little bit about us as a church. We're going through a lot as a church right now. I think we can all agree, right? We're going through a transition right now, a phase that is tough. It's a hard thing to go through as a church. I think that there are a lot of people, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of uncertainty, anxiety, all of it. And I think we're all there. But I think, if I had to guess, I think there are probably people in the church who feel like some of the things that they're feeling, some of the things that they're thinking about this transition period, they're thinking by themselves. Or they're worried about these things by themselves. Or they're feeling things by themselves. Because as a church, we're still here. We still gather on Sunday mornings. We're still moving forward. We're making decisions on who's coming in next, right? We're looking at new pastors. And so it feels like we're kind of moving forward as a church. And so I can absolutely understand that there are some people, myself included, that feel like we're thinking things and feeling things alone. And this morning, I really do want to remind us that we're not alone. That we're not alone in this transition. In this phase that we're going through right now, we're not alone. If you've got to worry, there's probably someone else in this very room that's thought that same thing, that's worried about that same thing. If you feel something about the situation that we are in, I would almost guarantee you are not the only person in this room that feels the same way. If you are thinking a question, I would bet that someone else has had that exact same question. And so this morning, what I want to do here is encourage us to lean into each other. Encourage us to lean into each other as a church, as a family. Because we're not doing this thing alone. Because we aren't by ourselves in this. We are a church family. You know, I was reminded this week, actually during our staff meeting, our transition team meeting, I was reminded that what we're going through is a process. And it's a pretty long process, it feels like. Feels like it's taking more time than I would like it to take. I wish that I could just make it happen. I do. I wish that I could find our next pastor to come in and lead us, and we could start working on growing as a church, and I wish I could make it all just happen right now. But I'm learning that I can't. And so it's a process. And it's not an easy process. I wish I could make it easier, but it's not an easy one. And as I was processing this process this week, I had a realization, or maybe I was reminded, that I love you guys. As a church, as a family, I love you guys. And I don't want us as a family, as a church, I don't want us to feel alone. I don't want anybody in this church to feel like they're alone in whatever we're going through. Whether it's this transition or personal life stuff. I don't want you to feel like you're alone in any of that. Because what happens when you feel alone is you kind of distance yourself from the people around you. And when you're alone, then you're alone. If you feel like you're alone, then you're alone. It's hard for people to get in. You know, I didn't just bring up Harry Potter for no reason. I had a point, okay? There was an actual point to talking about Harry Potter this morning. There's a quote that I'm gonna share here. And it's actually something that the first time I heard it, it struck me as like, that's really deep on a lot of levels. And so I thought about it for a while, and then, because I was watching movies, I forgot about it because, I was watching the movie. So we moved on. And then a couple months ago, 4 months ago, it struck me during a message. It came to me, the quote came to me, and so I wrote it down. And then this week, as I was going through all of this, it jumped out at me again, and I was like, wow, that is really interesting. And it's a quote from Luna Lovegood. It's not Harry, he doesn't quote it, it's Luna. Luna says something here, and I don't know if you guys know who Luna is. For those of you that haven't read the books, she's the crazy kid, okay? Luna is out there. She really is. She's got a lot of insights, a lot of deep insights, but she's kind of a whack. Okay, everybody in the school thinks she's kind of crazy, her and her dad both. My favorite Luna quote is actually, she says, "Being different isn't a bad thing. It just shows you're brave enough to be yourself." Such a good quote, right? A lot of insight in that quote. And from the crazy person, it makes sense. But, so that's Luna, okay? And this is a time in the books, in the movies, whatever, that Harry is struggling. He's going through a lot right now. He feels very secluded. Everybody is losing people left and right. Everybody feels like they're pulling away from him. He feels like he is being left all by himself. He just feels abandoned, and it's a dark time for him. And Luna sees him one day, and he shares some of it with her, and this is her response to him. She says, "Well, if I were you-know-who," and that's Voldemort, that's like his big enemy, right? "If I were you-know-who, I'd want you to feel cut off from everyone else. Because if it's just you alone, you're not as much of a threat." And as I was going through all of this and thinking about all of it, and us and relationships, it really hit me on a deeper level. This quote really stuck with me, because if you're alone, if you are feeling alone, it is much easier for the enemy to get at you. It is much easier for him to, and for the world to kind of weasel its way in and make you think things, explode those thoughts of loneliness so that you really do feel like you're on an island. Because if you're all by yourself, who's there to lean with? Who's there? Who's there to lean on with you, right? There's power in unity. There's power in togetherness. There's power in family. There's power in the church, in the body of Christ. There's power in that. That if we are alone, it is easier for the enemy to attack us. It's easier for him to get at us and to really make us feel like we're the only one that has these thoughts or these feelings or these worries or this thing that's holding us. It's easy for him to do that. It's much easier for him to do that when we feel alone than when we feel like we're part of a family. When we have people that we can lean on and we can talk to and we can grow with. And now, because I know that it can feel like this, I'm not bringing this up this morning because I want to force us to stay together as a church, okay? I'm not bringing it up because I want to guilt anybody into staying or because I have any sort of negative feelings about people who haven't stayed or aren't going to stay or anything like that. But I bring this up this morning because I want to encourage us, who is our church family here, whether here or listening, whatever, the church family that's here, I want to encourage us to be together, to not let that happen, to not let it happen to where you feel so cut off from the rest of us that you feel like you're just alone, that you're by yourself, that maybe one person goes here because they were alone, and then here, and then all of a sudden, we're kind of falling apart. And not falling apart because we're not all, understanding, a part of this church and a part of this family, but falling apart because we just felt alone and we didn't know that we weren't. I want to encourage us this morning to remember that we do have each other, to lean into each other, to talk to each other, to listen to each other, to grow with each other. Because although we're in a time of transition and things are unknown and things are scary and things are uncertain of what the future might look like, this church family right here, y'all, we've been through a lot. Not even talking about the last 2 months. We've been through a lot, okay? And this church family has stayed together. This church family has grown, right? We've added people to this family, and it's not because of any one person, right? It's not because we've always had the most steady path, right? We have grown together, we have stayed together because we are a family. And I do feel like we've remembered often that we are a family. We are a church family, Grace Family Mission. It's right there. Right? And I think on some level, in my head, I've always kind of understood that relationship was where it was at. That relationships, not just like our relationship with God, because I didn't always understand that, but like relationships with each other were important. That's what we were kind of built for. That we were designed to not do things alone, but to do things together. And I say I've always kind of understood that on some level because it's been a lot of years now. It's probably been like 8 years. I got a tattoo with my college roommate, and it is Proverbs 27:17. Okay? You don't have to put it up yet. I'm not ready. Good call. Right? It's Proverbs 27:17. And it is a verse that, to me, my understanding was we grow together, basically. That was my understanding. As he got better, I got better. As he grew, I grew. We were just stronger together. If you don't know Proverbs 27:17, this is what it is. Right? As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And that verse is one that is, it means a lot to me. It does. But I think it's also got a lot deeper meaning than what I understood it at the start. And what I understood at the start was like, together we're stronger, right? And that brought me to this idea of like, the bushel is stronger than the one twig, right? That's a whole different like Bible thing, right? But that's the understanding, right? Similar understandings. But the more I looked at iron sharpening iron, the more I realized that it's not necessarily like we're just stronger together. There's a deeper level of growth in that. It's not just I get stronger when I'm with somebody, right? It is harder to be broken when we're in a group. It's harder for the enemy to attack us when we are together. But more than that, what iron are you sharpening? I don't really know. I'm going to be honest. They sharpened a lot of iron, an axe, a sword, whatever. You're sharpening something to cut, I assume, because that's the only reason to sharpen something. So when you sharpen iron, when you sharpen your axe, it cuts better, right? It does the thing that it was designed to do better. Iron sharpens iron. But I don't think it makes the axe better at hammering in a nail, right? I don't think it makes it better at, I don't know, rolling on the ground. It's not a wheel, right? It's an axe. It's what it's designed to do. It makes it better. So as iron sharpens iron, when I'm growing in a relationship together, I make you better, you make me better. That's not a I fix you, you fix me. That's not what it is. Because I wasn't designed to fix you. You weren't designed to fix me. We were designed to live in a relationship together, right? To be a part of the kingdom. I don't make you better because I can fix your problems. I make you better because as we learn to live in relationship here, our relationship there gets better. We grow in our relationship with God. And that's what we were designed for. To grow in that relationship with Him. It's deeper. It's more than just being strong together. It's more than just a physical strength. Together, it's easier for us to destroy the enemy. And not like destroy him, beat him forever. That's not our job. But it's easier for us to beat him here. It's easier for us to talk to each other and get those feelings of loneliness out. To get those worries out in the open so someone who has had those same worries can talk us through those. I want to encourage us together as a church. I want to encourage us this morning. Live together. Be together. Think together. Pray together. Grow together. Talk, listen, love each other. Be the family. Be the church that we know we are. But don't forget in this hard time that you're not by yourself in any of this. We know that there's a lot going on. I know that there's a lot going on. Everybody in this room knows what's happening. Whether we're processing it at different speeds or not, we've all been there. And if we haven't been there yet, we will be there. Let's not forget that together this morning.